You may have heard that this year we're celebrating 400 years since the King James Version of the Bible was published. So throughout the year there'll be celebrations taking place. I thought I'd spend a few videos talking about the importance of reading the Bible. I want to say three things. First of all, the Bible is a big book. Well, actually, it's not a very big book, just over 1,000 or so pages. But it's a big book in the sense that within this one book, there are 66 books. And these were written over a period of about 1,500 years, and there are 40 different authors. So different styles and different cultures mentioned there. As well as it being a big book, it's also not an easy book. From what I've just said, we can understand that. Some of the parts of the Bible aren't that easy to grasp. If you're reading through Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, the Gospels, or maybe the Acts, which talks about the life in the early church, pretty straightforward. But if you dip into places like what we call the minor prophets in the Old Testament, or perhaps the book of Revelation, it's a bit of a different story. Now, thankfully, there's plenty of places that we can get help. Scholars, people that have written books about the Bible, dipping into the internet, and you can find help, and windows are open on passages, all the passages that you'd want to think about. And then it's an amazing book. It's an amazing book for various reasons. It's full of history. It's a historical faith that we have. There really was an Abraham who lived 2,000 years before Jesus, and a King David who lived about 1,000 years before Jesus. There really was a Jesus that we can document his history, who really did die on the cross. And if you investigate, you probably also believe that he rose again from the dead. It's also a book full of spiritual wisdom. Wisdom gathered over the centuries, but also wisdom that God has imparted to us as we will look to him. It's also full of prophecy. In the Old Testament, there were prophets who prophesied things that were going to happen very quickly, and also things that would be well into the future. Jesus was a prophet. He spoke about the end of the world. So in these ways, we can delve into the plans and purposes of God. It's also full of God. Although there are lots of stories about human beings, really it's the story of God himself. It's his story. The thing about God is that he wanted to show what he was like through the things that he did. And so through reading these stories, they're stories about what people are doing, but also what God is doing in their lives as well. There are some people who can spend their life, maybe they look at the Bible from time to time, but they may never find him. Perhaps they're not looking for him. But there's a promise in the Old Testament, in Jeremiah, which says, all those that will seek me or search for me with all their hearts, they will find me. There are other videos in this series about studying and memorizing things in the Bible and things like that.